Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with episode number 7 of TNT, Twisted New Testament. Coming to you with Rabbi Stuart Federer from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Rabbi. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Good to be here.
Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Sorry we missed you yesterday. Had some joyful, unexpected family visit from my son. My son and daughter-in-law and some other friends of the family, and so turned out to be a pretty long evening. And
that's nice way to have things done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was really very, very pleasant, very enjoyable. But I did miss you though.
Yes, I missed you too. I always miss talking to you.
It's good to be back in the studio with you for sure. So anyway, let me open the phone lines. That way, everybody can call in if they so desire. I thought I already did. If you're watching, call me. Say hi. I think the phone lines are open. Pretty sure they are anyway. So I'll just have to pause the music, turn the ringer up, and we shall see. Oftentimes, not oftentimes, but every once in a blue moon. Oh yeah, it's recording. That's good. I wonder how many people are actually watching since looks like we got 3 viewers. Yeah, switching from yesterday to today, that was my bad. But hey, at least we get one.
It happens.
At least we get it in this week. That'll be good.
And yes, it will be recorded.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I saw a video today that really kind of, the more and more I deal with this whole, the messianics twisting the scriptures and stuff.
Yep.
My...
Wait a minute, scripture twisting. Wow, that'd make a great title.
I think Penina Taylor actually has a book called Scripture Twisting.
Yes, she does. That's exactly what I was referring to. It's a great book, too.
We'll have to get her back on the show again sometime. But, man, I tell you what, I'm finding myself more and more becoming more and more aggravated by it,
Yes,
and it's
yes. Welcome to the real world.
I try not to be, but it's just some of the same old stuff over and over again by some of the same old people who have come. They'll come onto your wall. They'll challenge you. You'll give them all the appropriate text to not just show your point of view, but to prove your point of view.
Yep.
And then it's like, a week later, they're right back at it again, like they never even heard from you before.
Or they'll tell you, we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because all it is a disagreement. And I had the same experience the last few days where I explicitly showed someone based on their own New Testament. Mm-hmm. And they were completely misinterpreting, or let me put it this way, they were given an interpretation to their New Testament verse that completely ignored the plain, simple, obvious, clear meaning of that same verse. Mm-hmm. So,
right,
happens all the time.
So pray for me that I keep peaceful enough not to run people off. So, anyway.
Well, let me put it this way, William. There are some times it's worth running people off.
Right.
I'm like I keep telling you, I am simply not as nice as you are.
Well, hopefully, no, I won't comment.
Yeah,
I'll just keep it there. Okay, so this Sunday we had some interesting topics with Rabbi Singer, and one of them was, I hear people who have taken the Messianic route.
Would you just let me interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah, certainly.
I just want to know one question. This is based on another discussion, I'll put it that way, on Facebook.
Okay.
William, when you were growing up as a Christian and within the Messy community, was there ever a time where people said, your fellow Christians said that the idea of the hellfire was only not, what's the word? Don't take that literally. It's
metaphorical, not really. Or analogy sort of a thing.
Yeah, did they ever say that?
I have never once heard.
I just wanted to validate myself, something I said on Facebook.
Well, and the thing is, everybody's had their experiences, and one thing that I have heard a couple of other people mention that they thought that it. Not people that I went to church with though, because I've been going to church since I was a young teenager at church, Sunday, Trinitarian, full gospel church. and to different churches, all over Oklahoma and Tennessee. Not all over Tennessee, but all over Oklahoma. Different churches in Tennessee, from Bell Buckle to Christiana to Murfreesboro to Antioch, and I have every church that I've ever heard them talking about hell. It was a literal burning hellfire, fire and brimstone, torturing the flesh, just like they teach in the idea that your flesh will be reborn again and be sent to hell to be tormented forever. So that was a really big deal, because that's like a scare tactic that's used, and it's obviously it's a pretty effective one. So unfortunately. So the number 855-952, I'll put up on your screen now, if I have it. I believe that'll get her done. So the phone lines are open. You have to forgive me for being a little bit almost sedated. I'm pretty tired today. But anyway, so wake me up, call us in, say hi to Rabbi Federo, say hi to myself. Thank you for tuning in anyway. And if you're catching this later, then hopefully you'll have some of your curiosities piqued and answered. And we'll just kind of dibble and dabble and see what we can come across today. So there was a scripture today. Scripture, I keep calling them scriptures. There is a note in the New Testament where Jesus had criticized the Pharisees. It says, "For you do err, not knowing the scriptures or the power of God." What was it? What was he talking about there? Do you remember? Somebody commented on that earlier.
In context.
Let me look it up right now, because that was something I was going to. I just saw just before I came to the studio, and I didn't have time to comment on it. But I really want to address that, because this is a person who is, I'm thinking, is a messianic. They sent me a friend request, and
Okay.
I'm not partial. People want to send me a friend request, Christian, Messianic, Muslim. I don't really care. Send me a friend request. I'm cool, But if I see something that I think deserves commenting, I'm going to comment or bring it into one of our shows, and this is the case here. Rabbi, did you have any luck finding that real fast? I think it was.
Yeah, it's Matthew 22:29 is the statement,
okay.
But the context actually begins earlier, of course. They're trying to, let's see, I guess it'd be 23. So Matthew 22, verse 23. The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. That's a reference to the Levirate marriage.
Okay.
Now there were with us 7 brothers, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, having no issue, left his wife unto his brother. Likewise the second and the third and the 7th. The last of the women died also. Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. Jesus answered and said, and here's your line, you do err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God, for in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven.
Is there any truth to that? What is your?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Truth in what way? Truth that they didn't know the scriptures. The Sadducees may not have,
right.
But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Okay. Or is there truth about in the resurrection we won't marry?
Right. Well, kind of both. Well, I mean, the Sadducees, I've always pictured the Sadducees as being like for that time, their modern day Karaite, which did not believe in anything but the written.
Well, that's true, but there's more to it than that.
Okay.
The Sadducees were placed in power because they controlled the temple, and the only reason they controlled the temple is because Rome allowed them to. To the extent that the highest bidder.
I was going to say they were paid off. Right.
Exactly. The highest bidder became the high priest, even if he wasn't a Kohen.
Interesting.
Even if he wasn't from the priestly class, a descendant of Aaron. If you had enough money, you could be the high priest.
Right. Right.
And so they were in cahoots, shall we say, with Rome. And when the Second Temple fell, they lost the bet. They're gone. Their whole power structure disintegrated.
That's really.
And by the way, please notice something here.
Okay.
Notice that the Sadducees are arguing as if there is no resurrection because that was a Pharisaic belief. But the Pharisees were the precursors to the rabbis and rabbinic Judaism.
Okay.
Okay, so having Jesus defend the Pharisaic approach to the afterlife.
Right.
The Sadducees are making Jesus defend the Pharisees.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
By having the idea of resurrection.
Interesting. Oh, because they didn't believe in the resurrection. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, that's what they're arguing about. That's why the Sadducees are coming to Jesus and trying to corner him, because clearly they saw Jesus as a Pharisee.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay, and as a Pharisee, it's why he would say, the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Don't do as they do. Do as they say, because they're hypocrites. They don't, I forgot the exact line.
Matthew 23, verse 1, I believe.
Okay, so
next chapter, actually, yeah.
Okay, so what was the rest of the question?
No, the other question was regarding the what does Judaism teach about marriage in heaven in the Olam Haba?
Well, this is the resurrection.
Well, no, but it comments on marriage. It says, "For in the resurrection."
In the resurrection, the question is, when we get our bodies back, when we get resurrected after having been in the afterlife,
right,
and we've been married a few times, which wife are we going to be with?
Right.
Okay, and Jesus's response is, there is no marriage. There's no people given in marriage. We're all like angels in heaven.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the question. Is it true?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that's so far off.
Okay.
There are passages in the Talmud that say that the next life is not much different than this life.
Okay. I think what's more important is, does it even matter? I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Well, no, it doesn't matter.
That's the whole point, right?
As far as I'm concerned,
right,
the significant matter of all this is that they're assuming Jesus is a Pharisee, and as a Pharisee, Jesus is defending the Pharisees' position, the Pharisaic position on the afterlife, which is resurrection, which is one of the distinctions between the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
And if Jesus was defending the Pharisees, then that means that he was a Pharisee who also supported and taught the oral law, which brings us up to the next couple of verses. Thou shalt love what does it say, Master, which is a great commandment in the law. And the Christians look at this and they think the Ten Commandments when they think about the New Testament. Jesus and the Ten Commandments, that's cool. And Jesus said to them, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all the heart and all the soul and with all the mind.
Deuteronomy.
And that is the first and the great commandment. And the second is like unto it. You should love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the question I would have to ask, and I have asked numerous times to the Christian who's watching this, is if it's just 10 commandments, tell me which of the 10 these two fall. Which of the 10 are these two? And the answer is it's not. It's not any of those 10. There's actually 2 additional commandments, which would bump it up to 12, right? And before you know it, Jesus himself, being a Pharisee, would have taught the full Torah to his suspecting audience, which was not the Gentile. It was actually the Jewish people, if in fact it all worked out well. So, and this is a message that Christians really will never.
Yeah, but you'll find
that.
Statements in the Talmud about a famous rabbi asking his disciples, "What's the most important verse?" And they go back and forth and argue about it. And this sounds to me like the same kind of thing that would have happened. And they don't agree on what's the most important of the last of the commandments. So.
Right. Wow, this Matthew is fully loaded with all kinds of stuff in here. Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay. Another thing I found it was interesting is here in verse 5. I think we talked about this before.
Wait, which chapter?
Chapter 23. I'm just kind of scrolling on the page.
All right, because I want to go back to 22.
Let's do that first. Let's go to 22.
Okay. How often have you heard Christian missionaries use the phrase? Use the psalm. The Lord said to my Lord, "Sit on my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool." If David calls him, how often have they cited? I think it's 110 verse 1, but I'm not good with my numbers. How often have they cited that as proof text for Christianity?
Right.
Okay. They forget that here in Matthew 22, Jesus cites this as a way to show that the Messiah is not supposed to be a descendant of King David.
Interesting.
Look at Matthew 22, beginning with verse 42.
Okay, let me pull it up on the screen too. Okay, verse 42 saying, what think ye of Christ? Whose son is he? They say unto him,
Right.
The son of David. He saith unto them, boy, I love the King James. How then doth David in spirit call him Lord, saying, this
Yes.
is King James for you. The Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou on my right hand. That sounds weird. Don't sit on my hand. Sit till I make thine enemies thy footstool. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son?
Which means that Jesus is arguing, based on this verse from Psalms, that, using the typical Christian misunderstanding of it, that the Lord said to my Lord means that King David said to his son the Messiah, his descendant the Messiah, sit thou on my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. If David calls him Lord, which means superior to David, how can he be his son? Because the Father is always superior to the Son.
True,
so
right.
Jesus here is arguing that the Messiah is not a son of King David, a descendant of King David. The only reason he would do that is if he acknowledged he himself is not a descendant of King David. You see my point?
Yeah, what's really interesting is in here too, in Psalm 110:1, where you located,
Yes.
The Lord said to my Lord, both of these words are capitalized.
Well, no, yes. There's a whole
in the King
history
James.
to this misuse of the verse.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up the
First of
the
all, you have
Hebrew.
to see it in Hebrew to understand it.
It's up on the screen right now. And
Okay.
let's see, David. Okay. So the two words here, I'll just highlight them. There's the tetragrammaton, right, for one of them, and the second one here, which is printed in English as the same exact word, is not that word at all. It's actually Adonai or Adoni. So you have Hashem's name, and then you have Adoni, not Lord, as the King James presents it. So over and over again, like you mentioned before, and so many others, there's just such a butchering.
All right, so I tried something that didn't work.
Okay, what do you?
All right, first of all, okay, you know how on your screen you have emphasized Adoni?
You mean in the Hebrew?
Yeah, in what you're showing, what I see right now.
Okay,
is that you've made green.
Oh yeah. The Adoni.
Okay. Move that back to the first two words of what you have on the screen.
Okay, which is here. It's going to take you 20 seconds to get it, right?
Well, let me start talking about it then.
Okay, good.
It says Le David Mizmor, which means...
Right.
Sorry, excuse me, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, it says Le David Mizmor. Okay, Le David is usually translated as to David.
Right.
Mizmor is a song, a psalm. Okay. All right. So it's also, they'll reverse the translation as a psalm of David.
Okay. Oh yeah, because it's gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Now, so those are the two words I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay. Le David is the interesting thing here.
Okay.
Because the lamed, the prefix to the name David that you see here, it's the first letter of the Hebrew of the line. Okay, next to it is the Roman numeral 1. Okay?
Right. Yep.
Le can be translated as to,
for, or unto,
or of, meaning like a possession.
Now I thought of was symbolized by the at the end of a word.
Wait, what?
Like Torah is the law of.
Yeah,
right?
No. But
it's a noun.
But the changing the hey into the tav indicates a construct, which means of.
Okay.
In English, we say tablecloth, but it would be cloth of table, where the word cloth was a construct, cloth of.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's not what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
What I'm talking about here is the first word, le David. It's to David, for David, or of David.
Okay.
If I write a song for William, does that mean that William wrote it?
No.
It means I wrote it.
Right.
If I write a song for David, I certainly wrote it, not not William, right?
Right.
If I write a song to David, if I write a song to William, if I write a song for William, William never wrote them.
Right. Right.
If I have a song which is owned by William, it usually means William wrote it. Okay?
All right.
Now, 2 out of 3 understandings of Le David means that David himself did not write the psalm. It was written either for David or like dedicated to David.
Okay.
But he's not the one that's talking about. Okay, he's not the one who actually wrote it. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's take the rest of it. Okay, and for this you can go to the English.
Okay. Let me pull it back
Okay,
up.
and
Tell me when you see it. Last time I actually forgot to put it up on screen. That's why you never saw it. Okay, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Keep reading.
I got it. What?
I said, you want me to keep reading?
No. Let's just take what it says.
Okay.
Okay. As you have it up on the screen,
Yes.
you got 2 capital letter L's for the word Lord.
Right.
Okay. A psalm of David makes it look like David is the one who wrote it.
Okay. Right.
And so, therefore, this is read as God said to my God.
Right.
Okay. And the Christian misunderstanding of it is going to be the Father said to my Lord who is the Son.
Right.
Right. What's the problem with this? The problem with this is that, let's say this is a person who works in the temple, and he's a songwriter, and he is writing this psalm, okay, and he's writing it thinking about King David in his head.
Mm-hmm.
The Hebrew has the four-letter name for God, okay, as the first time you see the word Lord in this English translation.
Right.
Okay. But the second time you see the word Lord in this translation, the Hebrew there is not the 4-letter name for God, but is actually the word Adoni,
Mm-hmm.
which means my master, my Lord with a small L, like lords and ladies of Old England, which is this King James that's the English he used.
Right.
Lords and ladies kind of Lord. So it's God said to my master, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Yep.
So the first line is, God said to King David, sit thou at my right hand. Except he
Right.
didn't say that. He
Right.
said, the eternal one, God, said to my master, Adoni, my master. It's written by someone about King David
Right.
and dedicated to David, a
Right.
psalm for David. God said to my master being King David, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.
Right.
And
Nice.
that's really what this is talking about.
Nice. Very good.
All right.
Very good.
So, but going back to the passage in Matthew,
Okay, let me go back there.
okay, Christians want to see this verse as God the Father said to God the Son, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. There it is.
Well, there's a problem with that, okay, with Matthew chapter 22, verse 42 and following. They say to Jesus, what do you think of the Messiah? Whose son is he going to be? And he says, and they answer their own question by saying, the son of David. But Jesus returns to them and says, wait a minute, David calls his own son, David calls this Messiah person Lord. So if this Messiah person is David's Lord, how can it be David's descendant? Because the ancestor is always greater than the descendant. The father is greater than the son.
Right. So therefore, ruling out the possibility that that Jesus would be a descendant of David.
Jesus is using this verse to say that the Messiah does not have to be a descendant of King David, because the ancestor is better than the descendant. The father is better than the son. And the only reason he would say this is if he knew he himself was not legally a descendant of King David. He's trying to validate himself.
It's called damage control.
Yes. And
That's
he's
exactly
saying
what it is.
he's trying to prove that the Messiah doesn't have to be a descendant of King David, because he knows he's not a descendant of King David, but he wants to show how he still could be the Messiah.
Unbelievable.
And no man was able to answer him a word, neither durst, I love that word, any man from that day forth ask him any more questions.
Yep.
Nobody from that point on asked him any more questions. Really? Then what happens in 23? I thought that they started asking him more questions.
Let's see.
Maybe not 23, maybe not 24, but somewhere in the narrative.
Okay. Well, while we're pondering that
How
thought,
about Matthew 24, verse 3? And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, clearly later than the 23 verse,
okay,
the verse in chapter 23, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? They're asking him three questions. No man, had the audacity to ask him any questions from then on. Well, here's some more.
Interesting. So, going
just another mistake, minor
Right.
though it may be,
Sure.
of how the New Testament contradicts itself.
Right. And going back to the idea about Jesus being a Pharisee, or being confused as a Pharisee, however it wants to be put, it does show, again, him in several different areas of this verse 23, chapter 23 in Matthew,
right?
Teaching the Torah, and then even goes on to teach the oral Torah, and then also later on, I don't remember where it's at. There's a mentioning somewhere of a Sabbath day's journey. I don't remember where that's at, but that's an oral law. That's an oral law situation, and so.
Okay.
Point being that all throughout the New Testament is all these different teachings about the oral law and the importance of it. That wasn't by Jesus, I don't believe, but. Oh, right here we go, verse 5. Okay, it says, but all their works they do. Okay, so the point of these couple verses is
right. They give themselves bigger tefillin.
Right.
Okay, so that everybody gets to see that they're actually using them.
Right, bigger, more glorious, but he didn't criticize them for actually having them.
No.
Which means they were using them.
Jesus also said, basically, and it's. It's right before this.
Right.
Whatever they bid you to do.
Right.
Okay, but don't do it like they do, for they say and do not.
Right. And the Pharisees.
So he's trying to show them to be hypocrites, but what their basic idea of what they're doing, they sit in Moses' seat, which means they, in fact, have the authority of Moses.
There's a literal teaching in the Messianic circle, and I don't have this proof, but apparently. It's got some validity to it, but I don't know how much. I know Nehemiah Gordon has taught on it somewhat, but the Moses seat apparently, and you might be able to confirm this, or one of the other rabbis maybe, that in every synagogue they've got the place where they sit to read the Torah called the Bema seat.
Never heard of it. No idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right. No. Look. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm saying it's outside of my personal experience.
Sure.
But they will make this stuff, I'm being nice here, up.
Right.
Okay, to validate their interpretations of it. Moses was a judge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was a teacher, a lawgiver, a prophet. Okay, he was a judge. He adjudicated when different people would come up to him. That's when his father-in-law says, "You've taken on too much work." Okay, you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
So Moses' seat is a seat that has authority to judge.
Right. Well, the
Okay.
argument is it's not not argument. The support is that the Christian view is that it's a metaphoric statement, whereas the Messianic view is it's a literal statement. They sit
But
in
what was the implication of that seat?
The implication of that seat is that the Pharisees, that the only thing that they could teach while sitting in that chair, the only thing they could do according to the law or according to halakha, was to simply read from the Torah scroll. If they wanted to offer their own opinions, their own midrash, their Talmud, if you wanted to call it that, they could not be sitting in the Moses seat. So therefore, everything they tell you to do from the Moses seat, you do that, which means everything that's written in the Torah you must fulfill, you must obey.
Okay, now wait a minute. So let me understand this. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do.
Right.
Okay, and so all of what
everything
they
that's
ask you to do
from the Moses seat, from the Bema seat.
No. It doesn't say that. It says the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. It does not say all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe from Moses' seat.
Well, that's the implication, though.
All that they tell you to do. Okay. But if it's the Pharisees, we're talking about the entirety of rabbinic Judaism.
Yeah, agreed.
We're talking about the entirety of the oral Torah.
Right.
Okay. So, trying to limit this to only what the Torah says is contradicted by the very words of Matthew 23.
That's the whole point of the Messianic movement, is they want to take that. I would say 95. Let's say 90%. I think it's more like 98% of all Messianic people who classify themselves as Messianic fulfilled Jews reject the oral law. There are some that accept it, but the majority of them completely reject the oral law, and that's why they use this and teach it from this perspective on it.
And I understand that that's what they will say. But just exactly like the criticism of the Pharisees here,
right.
It's not what they do.
Right.
Because they will have tzitzit, usually, I love this, tied to their belt loop.
Yeah, true.
Okay, but their belt loop, but how they tie the tzitzit, the what's it called, the tzitzit, the fringe, the thing that hangs down, okay, is a rabbinic dictum,
right?
Okay, to represent the 613 commandments.
Reject it, yeah.
They can't say that the fringe put on the four corners of the garment is Torah purely and not rabbinic, because how it's knotted is oral law.
Right.
So if they light Shabbat candles on a Friday night, okay, even if they completely pervert the blessing over it, okay, into something about the light of Jesus. I forgot how they do that already.
Sure.
Or some of them used to do it. Lighting Shabbat candles is a rabbinic dictum.
Right.
So they may say they don't do rabbinic Judaism, but every single thing they seem to do is rabbinic.
Very true. Absolutely true. Okay, let's go ahead.
But their own verse 3 denies them.
Right.
Belies what they say, that this is only from Torah, because you're talking about Pharisees, the precursors of the rabbinic Judaism. Okay, whatsoever they bid you to observe is going to be all of rabbinic Judaism.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
and then he talks about the why do I do that? About the tefillin. Okay, how it's not in the Torah how they do the tefillin.
Right.
It is a rabbinic interpretation of verses in Deuteronomy that bring to existence the tefillin, which is rabbinic interpretation. Their own verses make a lie out of their interpretation of Moses' seat.
True.
As only being Torah.
Right on.
Okay. Messianics.
Okay, let's go ahead and take this call. Caller, welcome to Tanakh Talk. Thanks for watching, tuning in. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
It's Avi calling from Florida.
Hey, Avi, how are you? It's good to hear you back.
I'm good.
Yes, sir. Do you have a question for us?
Okay, in Matthew 5, on the Sermon on the Mount, when you get to verse 17, Jesus says, I do not think I've come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them.
Right.
And the law, in the letter of the law will not disappear until So basically,
whoa, that's not. Go ahead. That's not what he says, but go ahead. We'll come back to it.
Well, yeah, for a Christian, a messianic Greek, and the word for fulfill means pleroo, so they understand he came to preach the Torah instead of.
I'm sorry. The word for fulfill is what?
Pleroo.
No, like if you look into the Greek.
Right.
And see, because the Christians translate it a certain way to fit their theology that the Torah is done. But look into the Greek, the actual Greek, it says pleroo, which actually means to preach, which is nothing, which is not even close to the word fulfill that they put in the English translation. So basically, what does this mean, this verse, when it talks about not abolishing it and it will not disappear until things are accomplished? Like, what is this talking about?
Okay.
Rabbi, you first. You with the Christian answer. I'll come back with the Messianic answer on it.
Okay.
Believe me, they're so different. It's amazing. Avi, do you want to stay on, or do you want to go and disconnect and listen in?
I can stay on.
Okay.
No, stay on. It's more fun. We can talk back and forth to each other.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Rabbi.
All right. This is how I understand their understanding, if that makes sense. Okay. They believe that Jesus is saying that Jesus, having done the law, fulfills the law and makes it so nobody else has to do it anymore because it was perfectly fulfilled, done, executed, observed, whatever the word you want to use, by Jesus. Okay, that's how I understand their understanding of it. There's an enormous amount of problems with that understanding, but I'm curious what you say the Messianics see this as.
Okay, very good. Okay, so there's a very wide, very broad teaching on this. And if you look at verse 18, for verily I say unto you, until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle, and the jot and tittle have a very interesting significance as well. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law until everything is fulfilled, till all be fulfilled. So until he gave us two signs, till heaven and earth pass. And so if you look outside, what do you see? You see earth, right? And so you can't see heaven, you don't know if it passed, but you can tell if the earth passed. And he's saying until the earth passes away, not one jot or one tittle from the law will go away, which actually follows along with what Avi's saying in the idea of this supporting the law, that he didn't come to abolish the law, he came to teach it, came to present it, because apparently some sort of an analogy or some sort of figure of speech idiomatic term for to fulfill something means to appropriate it properly, not to make it go away. So that's the Messianic spin on this entire thing is, and off the text that I see, it makes more sense that way than it would be the way the Christians interpret it. Because, like I said, you have two sides.
I must tell you that
yes.
My what's his name? With the numbers, each word has a number, and the meaning. Strong. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Okay, I'm sorry.
Right.
Strong's Concordance says.
Yes.
To be complete, to end, to expire, to fill up, to fulfill, to make full, fully preach, perfect, supply.
That's what is the
complete, end, expire, fill up. I'm not sure how you get the idea that the Greek doesn't imply it's over. It's done.
I'll give you an alternate place to look. Look at Romans 10:4 in your Strongs, and line it up with this.
Wait.
Okay. Avi, I know you probably heard this
Romans,
one too. 10:4, good buddy.
Okay.
I'm gonna look at it too. Romans 10:4. Is this
right?
Okay. Oh no, I went through.
Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes. In other words, if you believe in Jesus, you don't have to do the law.
Now
anymore.
wait. Now look at the word for end in your Strong's Concordance and tell me what it says, because it does not say what you think it says.
Termination.
No, keep reading. No, that,
result,
okay.
Immediately, ultimate, or prophetic
Target.
purpose, specifically.
Target. Goal.
Impost or levy paid.
Goal at which, what version of Strong's are you looking from? Did they revise that? Because I have an old Strong's.
This one, my eSword.
Okay,
eSword.
no. If you look, you know what?
Programs I've ever seen.
You know what? I've got that on here too. I'm going to look at that as well. But
Primary
actually,
tello, to set out for a definite point or goal.
That's it right there. To set out for a point or goal at which you aim. So the point there is Jesus is the target of the law, not the end of the law. That's a complete mistranslation into the English.
So end point.
Yeah, he is the end point. He is the goal. He is the goal of the law, not the end of the law. He's not saying that the law is ended now. He's saying this.
Yes.
According to that text.
And Messianics see it this way.
Right. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's a really, really good one you brought up, Avi.
Yeah. Well, one other question too is that.
Sure.
Well, Jesus couldn't have been he couldn't have done all the 613 mitzvot.
Right.
Because there's
Correct.
some that you can't even do. Like there's a mitzvot you're supposed to destroy all the Amalekites or the Canaanites, and by the time of Jesus, all the Amalekites were gone. I mean, they're even gone today. So the argument that he completed it perfectly is totally against.
Yeah, that's
if you
just
actually
nonsense.
read 613.
Can I ask you a question?
Is he a female?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's something else
Okay.
I think we're all neglecting to say, although we all know it already, but let's say it out loud anyway. Okay? What does it mean to fulfill a law? It means to obey it in its perfection, right?
Right.
Right.
So what you're saying is that if you are driving a car and there's a car in front of you, and the car in front of you perfectly observes the law of stopping at a stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's involved about stopping at a stop sign, the car in front of you does. That means you never have to stop at a stop sign again, because it was perfectly fulfilled by the car in front of you. What kind of nonsense
That's
is this?
totally illogical.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
So the idea of fulfilling the law means you don't have to do that law ever again, and nobody else does ever again. It is patent nonsense, because they don't understand what law is or how it operates.
Well, furthermore,
let me tell you something. I really get the Gospels better than I get the epistles. Okay, because a lot of what he says, I think he was on drugs. No, I'm serious, because the way in which he's talking
right.
It's just weird to me, and it's likened to the way people talk under the influence, shall we say.
Yeah, sure.
It's just weird to me. So I get the Gospels because they're narratives and they're stories, but the epistles just weird. Okay. But the idea that if you fulfill a law and do the law, nobody ever has to do them again because it was already done once perfectly, is patent nonsense and was never an understanding of the law. Never.
Right.
If you stop perfectly at a stoplight, nobody ever has to stop at a stoplight before. If you perfectly put your money into a parking meter and move your car before the parking meter, the time is up, then nobody ever has.
Just put that anywhere, Rabbi.
Sorry, I talked about this. Okay, then nobody ever has to put money in a meter again. What kind of nonsense is this?
Right.
Okay, now my response doesn't negate their interpretation of he's the end point of the law, not whatever. Mm-hmm. But if the purpose, look, this goes back to something in Galatians, 3rd chapter, I believe. Give me Galatians, and I think it's 3. Okay, which is a basic. Come on, I know you're here somewhere. This is Galatians 3:10.
Okay.
For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone that continues not in all these things which are written in the book of the law to do them. But that no man is justified by the law on the side of God, it is evident, for they just shall live by faith. And the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Like I said, his writing to me sounds just so weird.
Sure, it's flip-flop.
But what he is saying in Galatians, okay, the people of Galatia, okay, the Christians in Galatia were basically struggling with this idea: before I become a Christian, do I have to convert to Judaism first? Which is evidenced by the circumcision for conversion. So Paul's response in this is the point of Galatians, is no, you don't have to become a Jew first. Go straight to Christianity. Because they're coming from the heathen community, the Gentile community. But his attitude towards the law is that the purpose and function of the law is only to teach you that you cannot do the law and that you need a Jesus, which is the end point. That's how the Messianics are interpreting this. He's the point of the law, is that the point of the law, like Galatians, Romans, Corinthians indicate, is that now that Jesus came, you don't have to do the law. And
now that's not the Messianic view, that's the Christian view.
I don't understand. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But assuming it's the Christian concept and not what you just said is true of the Messianics as well, okay, the attitude of Paul is that the purpose and function of the law is to show you cannot keep it, and therefore need Jesus to save you from the curse of the law.
Which actually, the curse of the law isn't the law itself, it's actually death. The curse of the law, the curse of violating the law is death. Not having to do the law. That's not the curse of the law, that's the law itself. The curse of the law is the death penalty for violation.
What they're saying is, and remember, Paul also writes, another one that's just beyond my ability to comprehend, is that to break any one law is to break every law. And if you break even one law, then you get the death penalty.
Catch 22.
So the next time you go into a school zone and you see that you're driving 21 miles an hour instead of 20, you now get the death penalty because breaking one law is like, this is what he's saying?
It is, yeah.
That's
Okay,
so
this
illogical.
is what he's saying.
Yeah, totally illogical.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He says completely illogical. It's correct.
No, our caller said something.
Yeah, that's what he said. I was just repeating
all right.
it.
All right, but isn't okay? So tell me now how the Messianics see this differently.
Okay,
because I don't see how they can, because that's clearly what Paul was writing.
The Messianics, I will say this: the Messianics do tend to have, in my opinion, a little bit more of an open mind on certain things. And if you look at the context,
because they want to validate they're pretending they're Jews.
That's true. That is true.
Because they want to pretend they're still Jews. Those have left Judaism, and the Jewish people, by becoming Christians, they want to rationalize and justify that they're still Jews by overcompensating by doing as much of Judaism as they can possibly do. Here is
your answer. You asked how is it that the Messianics can see Galatians written by Paul, the one who seems to be anti-law throughout much of the New Testament. How could they possibly see Galatians as written as a pro-law document?
Romans, and Corinthians, but go ahead.
And, we'll do Galatians first, and I'll take you straight to Romans.
Just give me the general overview.
Well, there's a specific verse that puts all of Paul's writings in context according to Messianic view, and that is Galatians 5:4. Christ has become no effect unto you, whosoever of you are justified by the law. Not who keep the law, but the ones who want to be justified by it only without submitting to to that's their view. Now, let's go to Romans.
Wait. If you're going to use the verse, I want to understand the verse.
Okay.
Galatians 5, chapter 5, verse 4.
Yes.
Christ has become of no effect unto you, whosoever of you are justified by the law. Define for me exactly what justified by the law means.
That's where I'm actually fixing to take you to Romans 2:13. And it's going to actually be something that's going to contradict himself, where it looks like he's double-tongued. Because here it says, whosoever of you are justified by the law, but of course in Romans 2:13 he says, who are the ones who are justified? Those who are doers of the law. Those are the ones who are justified, not the ones of faith, so to speak.
But you haven't defined for me, what does the term to be justified by law mean?
The same thing that Christians believe it means, just as if I didn't do it. That's literally how they remember it. Justified means just as if I never sinned. Justified. That's their
just
payoff.
As you never sinned.
Yeah, just as though they never
saying,
sinned. Right.
So you're saying that the purpose and function of the law. Start over. If we that Jews keep the law to take away their sin, to make us as if we are to make us without sin by keeping the law.
You could say that, I guess.
I just want to know one place. Show me one place anywhere in the
New Testament,
the sages
okay.
of blessed memory. Okay, tell me where the sages of blessed memory. Tell me where rabbinic Judaism or the Bible ever wrote that we are supposed to keep the law, because by keeping the law we will be justified by the law. I just want to know one place.
I know. That's the whole point. And
look, I don't assume to know everything. I'm definitely don't know everything.
Sure.
I just want somebody one time to show me where Jews ever believed this crap.
Right. Avi, let me ask you a question. How many people, Avi, do you deal with who are New Testament followers, who are Christian versus Messianic? About 50-50, 25-75? What do you typically deal with?
Most of my audience I talk to are Christians. I barely mess with Messianics anymore.
Gotcha.
Smart man.
Well, because some of these Christians are my close friends, and they don't like the fact that I'm going through conversion.
Right.
So they try to debate and challenge, what I believe now compared to when I was Messianic.
Interesting.
WhatJewsBelieve.org. WhatJewsBelieve.org. All right.
I'm going to put that up for you, Avi. Thank you, Avi, for calling in. I appreciate that, and we'll talk to you again next time. Okay. I'm going to put his website up on the screen right now.
All right. Well, you don't have to bother. My point, though, Avi, if you're still listening, okay, is we don't keep the law to be made sinless, to be made without sin, because we only sin if we break the law. It's not an issue to us. We're not keeping the law because it purifies us somehow. We're keeping the law because God commands us.
Right.
I don't understand how Paul can write that Jews keep the law to be justified. That if you can't be justified by the law, whoever said we could?
Mm-hmm. Well, Paul seems to think so.
Exactly. But
I'm going to put that on screen also right now.
Where does he get?
For not the hearers of the law are justified or just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. Now, the interesting thing is that this whole paragraph there is in parentheses, and they say that if something is in parentheses, that it was added by the editors of some kind. So, and of course, there are other texts in the New Testament, like the end of Mark, that was actually added, things like that. But this is in here.
The resurrection story of the original gospel was not there. All right. Yes, I understand that.
So,
but this whole idea, Jews keep the law because that is our relationship. That is the definition of our relationship with God, who commanded us to do the law in the first place.
Right.
Okay. We don't become sinners until we break the law, when we don't observe the law. Saying that we keep the law to become sinless it doesn't even make sense.
Here's another one for you. 1 Corinthians.
You know why you're. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay, Rabbi.
1 Corinthians what?
1 Corinthians 5:8 is another place where Paul is basically teaching in essence of keeping the Torah commands with the holy days rather than the pagan festivals that are followed by the New Testament followers for the most part. Therefore, let us keep the feast. What feast is he talking about?
Passover.
Exactly. So Paul, who supposedly is teaching people to do away with the law, is telling them to keep the law, because he's saying we're supposed to be celebrating the feast of Passover. And, of course, to the unsuspecting Christian, they don't know the laws of Passover, so they have no connection idea with this.
Well, they also see that Jesus was the Passover lamb, which is why it says, for even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us, which is like really bizarre.
That is really one of those. That is exactly what got me. Which led me out of the New Testament right there, because once I started studying the Passover and what it was about, what were the laws behind it, and I'm thinking, that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, Jesus was supposed to be a sin sacrifice, It's like, what's up?
Well, it says, "Therefore let us keep the feast not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth." Do you see how, according to Paul here, he is saying that the yeast that creates the leavening,
Yeah,
or the leavening
Pharisees.
itself, I should say, is sin?
Right.
Again and again, just show me one place in all of our sages of blessed memory. Show me one place where they equated leavening with sin. Leavening was to be puffed up, was to be, arrogance and arrogance, to be puffed up. Okay, to arrogant. I can't think of a better translation.
Sure.
Or, I'm sorry, not translation, but a better understanding of how they understood the idea of leavening.
Okay.
The actions of the yeast cells eating the sugars of the grains, wheat, barley, oat, rye, or spelled, and creating carbon dioxide. So it puffs it up. So what does it mean to be puffed up? It means to be arrogant, this kind of thing. Not sin. That's not sin. Okay.
Right.
Being arrogant is how we understood it, not as sin. So again, this 1 Corinthians 5 stuff, I don't know where he gets it from. He's making this up as he goes along.
One last thing I want to talk about before we'll have to trim it a little bit short because I'm going to have to get moving here. In Book of Revelation, it talks about actually two things. I'm just going to touch base. Maybe we can carry this on to next week.
Well, it's okay. What verse?
Actually, I don't know the verse of Revelation, but it says outside the gates are the fornicators and the idolaters and all this other stuff. Talking about the gates of heaven or whatever. And the idea there is this whole idea of a literal hell. Fire and brimstone thing. How does that play a part of it? But then also another Hebrews verse that actually really contradicts Christianity altogether. And they're saying that every sin you ever commit will automatically be forgiven if you believe in Jesus. In Hebrews 10:26, it basically says, if you do something it's wrong, then you have nothing to expect but a fiery, indignation of, correction. And so anyway. So it was Hebrews 10:26 was that last part. I don't know the Revelation one. We'll look that up later. So I'm going to turn there right now and just read it just for grins. Hebrews
10:26.
10:26. I think that's what it was anyway. It's been a while.
For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins,
but a certain fearful looking for
judgment and fiery indignation which shall devour the adversaries.
Yeah. So this whole idea of once saved always saved, or according to their mythology, I hate to say it that way.
By the way,
yes,
Judaism teaches us that even if we do something willfully, there is still forgiveness.
Right.
Okay. Even if we do something, if we sin on purpose, there is and can be and will be forgiveness if we ourselves do certain things called repentance.
So you tell me then, which sounds more graceful, the Christian scriptures or the Hebrew scriptures? Which one is more merciful? It's definitely the Hebrew scriptures.
Forgiving, merciful, absolutely.
I literally see the New Testament like a thief claiming to be honest. That's exactly what I feel when I look at the overview of the New Testament. A thief who says, "Oh, trust me, you can trust me. I've got this, and this." But in reality, this person's a thief, and you don't want to leave your house unlocked around this guy. New Testament is saying, well, Jesus is the grace and mercy. The New Testament, where God is the God of thunder and punishment and discipline, and he's so mean to the people, and he kills and destroys and has war. And I'm thinking, you obviously have never studied the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, because if you had, you would know that that's just a bunch of nonsense. The fact that we can be forgiven without bloodshed, which is not the message of the New Testament at all. I mean, seriously? I mean, this whole New Testament is nonsense. It's a completely different. I think Marcion was correct. I think Marcion was teaching two completely different gods, not the God of Jacob.
And let's get rid of this stupid Old Testament stuff because it's not part of our faith or religion.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, it's. I'm just glad. Thankfully, Baruch Hashem, I'm out of it. So are so many other. Rabbi, it's been fun.
This is a quick time.
Yes, hour. I know. I'm sitting there watching the clock and I'm thinking, slow down, man. It's already like 5 after 9. I'm like, are you kidding me? We just started. Rabbi, what song should we play off for tonight? We've got your options for Joe Buchanan. Plugging him here. He's a great musician for Hashem. Shalom Aleichem is my favorite one. You got Unbroken.
It's one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, every time I hear it, it's hard to get the tune out of my head.
And then you got Home, Sarah Laugh, Modani, Hineni, Unbroken, and Shalom Aleichem. Those are your choices. What's your favorite?
Like every one of them. But you said Shalom Aleichem is your favorite. Let's go with that.
Yes, I love that.
Unbroken is phenomenal.
Okay, so we'll do Unbroken next week. How's that?
By the way, you know that he wrote this from his soul as someone who converted to Judaism.
Nice. Very nice. Awesome. Rabbi, it's good to see you again.
Good to talk to you always.
Awesome. Viewers, thank you. Love you guys. Keep tuning in. Subscribe to the website. You can follow Rabbi Federo as well. Definitely go to whatjewsbelieve.org. He's got a fascinating... you mind if I talk through some of the song a little bit?
No, go ahead.
He's got a fascinating app also for your iPhone and for the Android. It's got a quick push button, push tab. You see a topic, click it, and some really quick responses. And it's just amazing. And the website, whatjewsbelieve.org, you can click on those as well, and it'll take you to these super great resources, whether it be other books or answers, whatever the case may be. Rabbi?
The app is called Jewish Mission Control. Okay, and the book is Judaism and Christianity, a Contrast, and all of it, take a look at whatjewsbelieve.org, which for the apps is basically the same text.
Love it. Rabbi, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen,
my pleasure.
See you next week, same time, same place. Shalom, shalom.
Seitchem l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon, min melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem.